Hello, everyone. I'm Amit.
I'm David.
And we are the Absurd Academics, back at it again. Another episode. I forgot my keys today. And
That's yo, you just hopped right in, huh?
We got to the studio. For those who don't know, we live a little bit farther away from the studio, which is this place. So we need keys to enter in the door. So we drove the far amount of miles we had to drive to get to the studio. And then when I'm at the door to open the studio, I realized I don't have the keys to get into the studio. So we had to drive all the way back to the place where the keys were, get the keys, and then come back to the studio. So
that is a very interesting drive. And by the way, that's got to be. I think you said this in the car. It's got to be top 5 worst feelings.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like forgetting the keys to go to a place and you have to go back to the destination to get where the keys are. That's probably top 5 worst feeling in the world.
You almost just don't want to do anything that day.
Exactly.
It's like your day's ruined.
I was about to call you and just be like, yeah, I think let's just leave it out for today. But then I was like, what other day are we going to record? Because we have busy schedules. But I was also just like, this really sucks.
Also, I need this. I got a lot of things that I...
yeah, and I got a lot of things I want to say.
Chest.
But just the pain to go all the way back and come back and just know that you had to go back for one little thing, but you had to drive 40 miles, it hurts.
Here's another thing. You don't really think about how significant your keys are.
Right.
Like, that's probably the reason why you can lose it. Like nobody ever leaves, like, something that's really important. You haven't left a single piece of equipment that's, like, integral to us doing this if that thing, like, is, like, big, right? So, like, you've never left, like, the lights. You've never left, like, the microphones, right? But a key, it seems so insignificant as small as it is.
But it is literally the most important thing.
Like, we literally couldn't do anything without that key so much. So, like, if we left one mic, we could
figure it
make
out.
do.
We could figure it out. If we left the lights, we could increase the ISO settings on the camera. We could figure it out.
Right. We can't do anything without the keys.
Without the key, why hasn't Apple digitized keys yet?
Well, they've...
Like, why isn't there a digital key? You hold it at the door and it opens.
I mean, technically, like, hotels and stuff, they do have digital keys. There's
really?
Stuff like that.
Where you could hold your phone up to it? Well, I mean, not... But it's still a physical thing.
Well, technically, there are some settings. It's weird, but there are some places, I believe, where you have basically, like, that QR code thingy.
Oh, okay, yes.
Like something like that. Don't quote me on this. I'm not. But, like, it seems very much within human possibility, and I would be desperately shocked if nobody has come up with that idea yet.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying, man. I think keys are a 13th century product. We need to innovate. That's got to be last on, like, the list of things. We got a lot more things we need to innovate before keys. But it made me realize I should have a copy of the studio key just in case and leave it in my car. Like it's so stupid why I don't have a copy of the studio key.
Yeah.
And I'm relying on this one key that has my destiny, basically. And it's like, that's such a stupid thing. A key copy costs $1. So yeah, I'm gonna get a key copy tomorrow because I don't want to feel.
Yeah, we're not doing this again.
Yeah,
we're not driving back.
We went on a whole road trip to get a key. And
I finally even hopped in the car with you and saw the entire little neighborhood. Bro, those mailboxes, they got to be like the fanciest mailbox ever. They have like the actual little flag thing that you lift up and down, like that little red flag.
Yeah, they're cute. They're not attached to the house. And the UPS guy gets annoyed if your car is too close to the mailbox, and he'll leave you a little note on your car that says "Move your car."
It's literally you live in a cul-de-sac neighborhood.
What's a cul-de-sac neighborhood?
It's like that area where like it's sectioned off and not like
yes.
You don't live on grid streets.
Yes,
like
it's
like in the city.
Very isolated.
Damn.
The
burbs.
It is the burbs, and I'm trying to connect the word burbs to the next topic, but I don't. Speaking of the burbs,
transition failed.
If you live in a really, really good burb, you're not getting the $1,400 stimulus package. So we live in the burbs, but we don't.
7 out of 10.
We don't live in the burbs. That's enough to get us out of that stimmy. STIMMYs are confirmed. The Senate Democrats just passed begrudgingly the $1.9 trillion package that Biden sent to them from the House. Joe Manchin gave them a run for their money, but he finally got the stimulus passed. What are your thoughts on the fact that we're going to get $1,400?
I mean,
it's pretty dope.
You owe us a lot.
14 hundos? 14 hundos?
It is, but man, did y'all take long with this? 14
hundos. I mean, they took long, but we got 600 in December, right?
I guess.
They kind of held us off a little bit.
That man said, Joe Biden said $2,000 stimulus checks, and he was like, well, if you do the math.
He's like, if you add 14 plus 6.
He's like, I don't know. I'm the president, so I can clearly do math. But I don't know if you can. But if you do the math, you got 600. I'm giving you 1,400. It's 2,000. I said 2,000. I keep my promises. I'm Joe Biden. I'm a man of my word. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it because it was just like he was running on $2,000 checks, and then the first tweet the day they got elected was, "We will complete the promise for $2,000." And I was just like, wait, this doesn't sound like $2,000 checks.
What do you
anymore.
mean complete? You didn't start.
No, it's so crazy though, but we should have realized they barely are getting this passed. Every Republican voted no, so they're doing a budget reconciliation process, which doesn't require the Republicans to vote on it. I'm surprised we're getting 1,400. We should really be getting like another 600. Like the fact that they're actually getting that passed, I mean, I'm starting to become more appreciative of it actually, especially because they gave up so many concessions already.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's always like, this is actually the inverse of, I think, Biden's like COVID strategy. So Biden's COVID strategy has been under promise and over deliver.
Yes.
However, the stimulus package thing has been over promise and under deliver. But then you consider what the alternative is, which is like you could end up with nothing.
Yes.
And then you're like, I will settle. But like technically, like we should obviously be thankful and appreciative that this is happening. There's no single person that is criticizing the fact that it's not 2,000
yes.
that is also going to reject getting that 1,400, right? That's just not going
Right.
to happen, right? So at a certain level, we have to be able to be appreciative of what we are getting, but that should not remove us from the fact that we should still criticize or, kind of understand that we are indeed settling.
Yes, and that's my thing. It's like I totally understand the perspective of someone who's like, but you promised 2,000, you could do more. All these European countries are doing like 1,000 a month. Like, what is wrong with you guys? And then I realized, wait, we're in America, and we have a political party in America that simply will not allow, based on the people, because they're elected. So the people, I guess, will not allow, even if they're voting against their self-interest, for that type of social safety net to go to the, not even extremes, but to the more, generous side.
Yeah, a big chunk of American politics is actually about voting against your self-interest.
Exactly.
On all sides.
And the other thing is, as you said, if you ended up with nothing, Biden would have no major legislative victory for his first 100 days. Because when this passes, and this is the thing that Republicans absolutely have a point about this, because I was watching a bunch of these senators on Twitter. They were tweeting out all these videos just showing a bunch of propaganda, how mad they were. They were reading through the 628 pages, and they were like, 100 million for the endowment of the arts. Then they looked at the video. What does this have to do with COVID-19 relief? Next, 50 million for climate justice. What does this have to... And now they were basically saying that the Democrats just stuffed in a ton of policy wins for Joe Biden.
That's true.
And called it COVID.
That's true, but then you could do the exact same thing and be like if you looked at... For example, if you look at the military's budget...
Oh, of course.
It's like...
The Republicans do the same thing. That's why it's hilarious.
They literally throw it in. It's like, what do half the programs in the military's budget that we pay for have to do with pure defense?
Yeah, and the Republicans, whenever they pass policy, every party does this. They sneak stuff in there. The Democrats sneaked an executive tax pay that's going to tax executives over the next 5 years at the tune of $8 billion. So the point is, if Joe didn't get this passed, he would have no major policy because I don't think he's going to get anything passed throughout the rest of the year, just because of how divided it is. This $1.9 trillion covers a lot. Like outside of the stimulus, which is what it's going to be known for, it covers a bunch of things that are super important. So he could theoretically get away with not doing anything for the next couple months and be like, I gave y'all 1,400, I gave 100 million to the arts, I gave 50 million to climate, I gave 400 billion to the schools, and he'll get some political capital off that.
For sure. I think for now it's a win for Joe.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think if this mixed with the vaccine rollout creates like
a healthy economy and a healthy opening.
Yeah.
It's a huge win.
We can get basically I still don't know if Hot Girl Summer is going to be a go, but if we can get to, if we can get back to reopening by fall, if college kids can be in person again, I think that people will just be like, all right, this was a success. At least year one, I think we'll consider a success.
What are you spending the $1,400 on?
I don't know.
I have some idea what you spend it on.
Nah, probably just...
You gonna save it?
Yeah, maybe I'll throw it into savings, rent, I don't know.
What rent? You mean help out where you live?
Yeah,
rent,
sure.
Right? I'm like, David, you don't pay rent by yourself. Like,
of course I don't. Thank God.
You were talking like, yeah, I might put it to car payment to rent. It's like, shut up, bro.
You
don't pay that stuff.
You know what I'm saying. I'm like some water bills. Gas is expensive.
That first $1,200 I gave to my dad. That time we got in March last year. I was like, all right, Dad, you got it. Like,
my parents are just gonna be like, hey, let me hold that. yeah. 1,400. What you really mean is Joe Biden gave me 2,800. Right in the middle of that.
No. What are you doing with your money?
I think I'm going to put it into my savings account. I think I'm just going to save.
I'm going to buy some stocks.
Notice how nobody said, I'm donating.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not a thing we're doing.
It's hard to donate $1,400 when everyone's struggling right now. I'm going to put into some stocks, though. I'm trying to think of it as like either this $1,400 gets me a couple thousand back, or I lose it and I'm okay with losing it, even though I'm not okay with losing it, but I'd rather take the risk versus just having it sit.
Yeah.
So
you can make something out of it. Who knows?
Right.
You never know. And if you do end up being successful with it and $1,400 becomes $2,800 or $1,400 becomes $28,000, who knows?
And it's a good it's a really nice position I was in, because the $600 that we got in January, that shit went straight to bills. So like that $600 wasn't able to turn into anything. So I guess it's just for some people that $1,400 really is something they desperately need. And
it's a life raft.
Yeah, and it's really nice that we actually got it done, which is crazy. Because you think about it, this is the most generous thing America's ever done in terms of direct payments. We've never done this before, and it took a global pandemic to get it to happen. So
the closest we've ever come to this is the WPA,
right?
And kind of like the whole New Deal distributions.
So stimulus package, really dope. We're getting $1,400. Something that was not really dope was Taylor Swift this weekend, who was really annoyed at a certain Netflix show that came out. It was called Ginny and Georgia.
What even is this story?
And yeah, me and David talked about it. We all three talked about it, and we have a really unique take on this. So Ginny and Georgia is a show, right? I haven't watched it too much. It's like some show. It's trending on Netflix. There was a line in the show where there was a joke. Can you tell us in the back what was the line?
Yeah. And
why did Taylor Swift, who seems to be too important to care about little lines in a Netflix show, get upset about it?
So the line was, this was the joke that was in the show. It was, what do you care? You go through men faster than Taylor Swift. And she tweeted, hey, Ginny and Georgia 2010 called and it wants its lazy, deeply sexist joke back.
Cool. So the girl in the show was talking to another girl who was being promiscuous with multiple other men. And she said, you run through men faster than Taylor Swift, something like that. Now, we got to talking about this before we got to the show because we wanted to develop what our opinion would be on this. And immediately when this hit me, it started to resonate that it's very weird that Taylor Swift is criticizing a show that is simply pointing out a true statement that Taylor Swift has dated many men. At the point where Taylor Swift releases a new album every 7 days about a new person that she's talking about. All of her content,
dropping these weekly EPs,
all of her albums have primarily been around love songs and about men, and that's totally fine. That's the type of artist she is. That's the type of music she wants to make. The weird thing though is she doesn't have content unless she has those experiences. Meaning she has nothing to sing about unless she's been through multiple experiences with men that have led her to an emotional state where she can sing about that stuff. Real quick, Netflix doesn't have content unless they're able to make these pop cultural references that appeal to millennial audiences. So Taylor Swift is using men to make money at the end of the day, which is music, even if she's not explicitly using them because she's going through an experience, whatever happens, and then she sings about it, and we know who she's talking about. Like it's not that unobvious. And then Netflix is using that same thing that's happening in order to make money as well. To me, the take is content is circular and everyone relies on each other to make content. So the idea that she's so deeply upset about it to me is very weird. Additionally, because you figured out some stuff.
So let's just clarify this. So is what she's saying that she's upset that this is just offensive, or she's like, this is sexist, this is demeaning to...
The latter.
So she's making a larger statement about this being demeaning to women because somebody made a joke about her. Okay, so here's the thing I don't understand. And I feel free to call me out, say this is wrong, whatever. But in order for a joke to be that pop cultural reference that Netflix has to build on.
Right.
There has to be such a universally understood premise.
Yes.
That the joke just makes sense as a one-liner.
And it gets people to tweet it, which gets promotion for the show, which does well for Netflix.
So if it is that recognizable, how could you possibly then be I don't understand saying that this is a systemic kind of sexist problem when not everyone has a song about the ex-lover of the year. Right. Like that. To me, that can't be a systemic issue. And I know that there are going to be people that are like, oh, well, you know, what about when people make offensive jokes about black people, right? It's like, well, yeah, like obviously those things are bad. The reason there is a distinction between the two is because that is based on a systemic issue, right? Like there's no objective image of, you know, this black person was a monkey. There's no objective image of that, but there is an objective image of like, yo, Taylor Swift has like dated a lot of men. I think it's so first things first. I, in the interest of making sure that I did my research, bought a composition notebook, and then I proceeded to see whether or not I could fill more than one page with the list of Taylor Swift's ex-lovers.
This is all public, by the way.
Google page 1.
We got it on the first link. So.
Google page 1. Let's see what it says. Oh dear. Brandon Borello, Jordan Alford, Drew Hardwick, Sam Armstrong, Joe Jonas, Taylor Lautner, John Mayer, Jake Gyllenhaal, Connor Kennedy, Harry Styles, Calvin Harris, Tom Hiddleston, and so many more. It's like at a certain point when you can see that many people, it's like this is not like that is not like a sexist attack, right? Like that does not read to me like a sexist attack.
The premise for the sexist attack is that a woman is running through multiple men. Why exactly does that mean?
That's not sexist though.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I thought the sexist connotation was that a man is running through like in my mind, this actually, she's totally wrong about this. They're literally making a claim that's just like Taylor Swift like literally uses and runs through all of these men, and it's like to some degree
that's kind of
empowering. In fact, the idea of women being able to control and use themselves in opposition to the way that men define them was actually a defining feature of third wave feminism,
and then make millions of dollars off of it by creating digital content in the 21st century.
Look at all these
that
songs
people like and enjoy.
She wrote Tim McGraw about Brandon. She wrote Picture to Burn about Jordan. She wrote Teardrops on My Guitar about Drew. She wrote Should Have Said No about Sam Armstrong. She wrote Better Than Revenge about Joe Jonas. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about this for a second, because this is the part that makes me the most upset, right? Because it's literally, at a certain point, it becomes a boy who cried wolf type situation,
yes,
right? Where it's just like the more you trivialize this and attempt to assert yourself as the image that makes or defines sexism, the worse it becomes for actual victims of like systemic violence as it relates to sexism, especially when you have engaged in that same, that same rhetoric. So Better Than Revenge, right, is a song about some girl named like Camilla Bell, right?
Yes.
Joe Jonas apparently broke up with Taylor Swift over a 27-second phone call, which is hilarious, actually, now that I think about it.
That is kind of funny.
How? Because you would think you would give at least a minute, like
27 seconds.
Like 27 seconds is really.
He was like,
short.
I got somewhere to go. I need to.
It's like, look, I have a concert. I'm about to look. Nick and Kevin are up. We gotta go. It's just It's
about to be the year 3000. Like I gotta hurry up. Like we gotta.
Yeah, it's just I gotta go. But I do want you to know I'm not feeling this anymore. All right, goodbye. Please welcome to the stage, Joe Jonas. I imagine that would be horrible, right?
Right.
But she writes a song called Better Than Revenge. Now, first and foremost, that title already reads to me as kind of cynical and evil, right? Because you're like, I'm going to make a song about you that's better than any revenge I could have. And then in the song, she has a line about this girl that Joe Jonas broke up with her for, named Camilla Bell. And the line is, yeah, she's an actress, but she's better known for the things that she does on the mattress.
Let's repeat that again.
Yeah, she's an actress, but she's better known for the things that she does on the mattress.
So this is a woman who's saying that the thing that this person should be known for, which is acting, so a creative pursuit, is actually really not that much what she's known for. She's known for things that she does in the bed. So connotating that her sort of rise to fame is sexual.
You're literally slut-shaming her, and then you're attempting to claim that that somebody making a joke about you, not even having sex, just having a lot of relationships, you're attempting to claim that is somehow the picturesque image of sexism, which is like wildly hypocritical to me. But here's the kicker. Here's where the worst part is. Read the tweet she said again. What was her response? She said, Ginny in Georgia, what would like to have what back? Said 2010 would like to have their deeply offensive sexist jokes back.
I wonder when that song came out.
When did Better Than Revenge come out?
Well, I feel like it was about 11 years ago, David.
I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it was a 2010 song slut-shaming a woman for being promiscuous.
Interesting. So in 2010, she released a song that was basically like, yeah, this girl's only better known for what she does in the mattress. And
Which is, by the way, the most disrespectful way you can say that. She's better known for the thing. Because first of all, I'll fully admit, I had no idea who Camilla Bell was anyway.
Right.
I only know two pieces of information about her. Three pieces. One, I know she's an actress. Two, I know that she dated Joe Jonas. And three, I know that you think she's a slut. That is, and you having that level of influence, making that song seems to me to be a lot worse and a lot more degrading in the context of overall sexism than Ginny and Georgia saying you go through a lot of men.
Because the variables are clear. In 2010, Taylor Swift was everything. Like, that's when Fearless came out, Speak Now, all that stuff. Like, she was it was 2 years after 2008 when the Love Story album came out, so she had a lot of attention. She was in a public relationship, so when she broke up and the other guy was with someone else, we know that your revenge is what you're talking about, so it's very easy to make the direct correlation. And then here's my kicker. That's a pretty good line. Mattress and actress, like, it rhymed really well.
It's such a good rhyme.
And then, you know what? Netflix, when their writers were in that show and they were like, what good line can we come up with? Oh, Taylor Swift pop culture reference. They made a pretty good line as well. You profited off of calling this person basically a slut at the end of the day, that they're better known for what they do in the mattress, made millions of dollars literally from music streams. 10 years later, 11 years later, you're criticizing Netflix that said nothing comparable to what you said and is just trying to do the same thing, which is make money, because you both are in the entertainment business.
And here's how, like, this is the thing to me. It is, how do I put this in the terms that I think will connect? It's the hypocrisy for me.
Yes.
In my mind, I can't understand.
You're worth way too much money to be complaining about. Now, if she was complaining and this was a joke, I would be like, all right, I get it. But she's acting like this is serious sexism.
Right. If you're like, this is a bad joke about me, it's like, well, you have the ability to think subjectively about whatever you think. But, like, to complain about
adding
this,
the sexism component is weird. It's very weird.
And it's like, at a certain point, it's like Jeff Bezos complaining about how loose the American tax code is.
Right.
It's like, you make so much off of this that there is even if you, let's say you were 100% correct, you're a little bit of a weird spokesperson for this, theoretically.
Yes.
Now, obviously, I think that legitimate sexism should always be called out. I don't think that it matters who's doing that. I think that women undergo a lot of that. But I think that when you take all the variables in and you're not just like, oh, you know, Taylor Swift is famous and Ginny and Georgia made it. Because you could probably criticize Ginny and Georgia about a bunch of things. Theoretically, the idea of that show is that they confront and talk about racial issues,
right,
but they attempt to do it in a way that does not have a defined box. So they're always going to make a ton of mistakes about it. And Netflix has not always been the most racially sensitive,
right,
you know, like,
because they can't.
Anyway.
They're a media company. Their job is to start discussions, not literally be the endpoint for all of them.
Right. So at a certain point, it's like that was going to happen regardless. But for you to somehow equate this with this level of hypocrisy and be like at a certain point, when you say something like this and you expect people to organize around you without at least critically considering how you engage, you treat everyone like we're too dumb to Google. Like, sis, this was Google page 1. I can't imagine what's on page 3.
And again, you made millions of dollars off of this. And that's my biggest thing. It keeps coming back to content. It's like, we need things to talk about to have content. What me and David are doing right now is talking about what's going on in the world and making content out of this. You had a relationship. You made a song out of it. You were tired of some girl stealing your man. You made a song out of it. And whatever. You said what you had to say. To be this upset over a show making a small joke about you, not even in a degrading way, just saying that you've had multiple relationships, it's a really weird element of, like, moral superiority that she's reaching for that she doesn't seem to deserve. And only her cult-like following of fans are going to give it to her.
Yeah, I don't even care if you're upset. Like, sis, like, be upset. It's fine. But when you attempt to make an overarching claim about this, about the sexist nature of this, I think that it does the ultimate challenge against sexism a disservice.
And it does comedy a disservice. Because at the end of the day, you have to have some, like, entertainment has to be offensive at some times. And, like, we're not saying that entertainment should be, like, overly offensive. But at the point where you're going to basically get Netflix canceled for making a small joke about the relationships you've been in, it's just like, all right, like, so what are we supposed to watch? How are we supposed to talk at that point? We're not be able to make pop culture references? Like, we're not able to reference the fact that you've had multiple relationships and make a joke out of it? And you're going to take it as, like, it's this degrading, sexist, like, attack on women?
Yeah.
I don't know, that's interesting.
How much do you see yourself as the picturesque woman at that point?
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry, but it's just in my mind when I think of true empowering women, I don't know if Taylor Swift is high up on that list. She's definitely on there somewhere, businesswoman, musician, mad talented success, but I don't know if I'm willing to stake the kind of large scale attacks against women, sexism, etc. on Taylor Swift, especially when there's stuff like Better Than Revenge out there that says that she does the same thing, right? None of this is really to demonize Taylor Swift, because I think what happened here is that, again, and I've been very clear about this in the past, that I think that people have a hard time rationally and logically thinking about things when they have visceral reactions. She was so upset that she chose the first word that she could think of, which was sexist, and it was not.
And as you're saying this, I think I've developed even a little bit deeper analysis to my take. When you get that famous, you let it go to your head. You should never be that powerful where you think your tweet can create a sort of movement of social justice against the show, when it's not, when it's hypocritical, and when it's just truly not the level of sexism you claim it to be. To me, that means she thinks of herself too much in a big light. She thinks she's too powerful. And that's a bad position for any human to be in. You should never think you're that powerful. You should never think that you're that high up there to the point where when someone makes a joke about you, you decide to get your legion of millions of cult-like followers to then go back at that person.
That's not
a good thing.
That's why I like Beyonce. Beyonce was never doing nothing like that. Beyonce was just like, man, I do... I may have the beehive, but I never have to. Beyonce doesn't have to unleash them.
Right. And Beyonce could for a lot of things that I think have happened that are way more sexist to Beyonce, because there's a racial component to it, which makes it deeper than Taylor Swift.
Yeah. That based on what you just said, I think that the media does do this thing. Now, this idea of going through multiple partners and dating multiple men.
Yes.
We're talking specifically in terms of a joke toward Taylor Swift, but this has been used against women constantly, almost as if it shouldn't be empowering to women that they are dating multiple people. One example I could think of recently, for the past couple of months, has been Lori Harvey. So many people calling her out as if she is dating multiple people, and now she's with Michael B. Jordan, and saying that it is wrong or it is disgusting or she shouldn't be acting that way. I think if anything, there's so many women who are dealing with this stigma of being with multiple people constantly. But I think that in terms of Taylor Swift, in terms of the phrasing of that joke that they're saying toward Taylor Swift, it, like you said, it's more so, it should be looked at more of an empowering idea that you have control over your own narrative.
Right. The word choice was very clear. You go through the men, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think that to some degree, there's something to be said about that, especially if you have made your life off of it. Like Taylor Swift will be able to create generational wealth based on the same premise on which that joke was told.
Which is telling that girl that she's better known for what she did in the mattress. That got you millions of dollars.
How dare
That's
you?
sad, man. That's sad, bro. That's
how
really
dare
sad. You? And someone can look at this video and be like, here's two guys thinking they can talk about sexism. It's like, if you don't answer the argument, then that's just an ad hom attack. That's not a good attack.
Like I said,
there is a very good
composition notebook, page 1, Google. You can tell me that as a man, I shouldn't be talking about this, but just know I came with receipts. I have actual arguments. I'm not just giving my general thoughts. Oh, Taylor Swift she's just being a weak woman.
We went through her lyrics and we found that the same premise of a joke that which she's mad off of, that she's creating this whole movement around, is the same thing she's been making money off of. And to me, it's hypocrisy, and it's a weird type of hypocrisy that creates, and my larger argument, a moral superiority complex that is not good to have.
That song is a banger, bro.
And that song was a banger because humans are complex.
I will say
humans
that
are intricate.
In the show, the way that line was used was a way to degrade the other woman. So I will say that in the context of how it's used in the show, it's
that's why it's mad offensive, right?
Right. It's making it seem as if the other woman should not be doing what she's doing.
Right.
So in that instance, Taylor Swift does have a right to be upset.
And that's
about
why you
the
slap your
tasteless
kids.
Joke.
That's why you beat your kids.
What?
That's why you put some sense in that kid. Straight up, it's like that kid. That is the kid being disrespectful, right? Because she was talking to her mom, right?
I believe so. I think that she was talking.
That is
to her
that
mom.
is just a kid being disrespectful. So at that point, to some degree, that also, like, while I do agree that the joke is offensive, it's also clearly being shown in a manner that this is disrespectful. Netflix is making it clear that this is disrespectful.
That's
and
also
that's
true.
the context you're using, which is why I'm like, I understand why you are upset. But to say that this is an act of promoting and creating sexism
In the show, it wasn't even it's interesting we're calling it a joke, but in the show, it's not a joke. Like in the show, when
it's
she
a barb.
says it,
It's
a pop
literally
culture
what's called a
reference.
barb.
Netflix deliberately
it's
put
a
there.
reference, and it's also to attack someone. Right?
And that's and it's that is shown in a negative light. That, like, at that moment, we're not supposed to empathize with that character.
Right.
So that would be like that's like a villain saying something like negative, like whenever we watch like movies like about slavery, it's like
Right.
we're never like, oh, they said something racist. Like, yeah, the character was supposed to be evil and racist.
Right.
In this situation, you're like, oh, she said something disrespectful towards me. Well, the character was supposed to be disrespectful towards her mom.
Right.
It's
The
like-
fact that it's actually not a joke is empowering the argument even more.
Right.
You're not laughing about it. You're taking it a little bit more seriously because it's shown in a negative light.
And it makes sense. Again, none of this is to say that Taylor Swift cannot be upset. In fact, she has every right to be and every reason to be. The place where you're like, man, you made so much money that this is a worthless complaint. Shut up.
Exactly.
Sure.
There's no impact to this
In
complaint.
my mind, I'm like, everything you said was correct until you decided to make it a focal argument about sexism, because knowing your platform, it becomes about the way that women wholesale are treated, which is just not what this joke was. This joke was Taylor Swift has had a lot of relationships, which is a Googleable fact.
And also,
And you've said worse.
That's the lyric. Like, you've said this woman is better known for what she does in the mattress. Why didn't you take if it's also like a free speech thing? It's like, why didn't you just not say that? You could have made people would have listened to the song if you didn't say that. You'd have made a lot of money, but it sounded good. It rhymed. It felt good. It was better than Revenge by saying that. For Netflix, they need to get eyeballs. How do we get eyeballs? We get Taylor Swift to get angry and tweet, because now more people will check out the show. They're doing the exact same thing you did to get people's attention. In a game where the argument is how do we get attention, and you're willing to do anything because you're a creative and you're a good creative at that, to then complain 11 years later is a level of moral superiority that I think is not good to have.
If the tweet was to spread this sort of sense of empowerment, all it did was it consequently what it did was more people checked out the show. Like,
Right.
it did give Netflix a lot more
Which is
money.
what Netflix was doing.
So it's
Netflix
like,
wants all the promotion they can get. So if they can make a line about if they made a line about Drake and Drake tweeted about something, everyone would go check out that show. Be like, I want to know, like, it's Drake, right? Like,
why is Champagne Poppy so upset?
Right. So why is Taylor Swift so upset? And then people look at this and they're like, oh, that's why she's upset?
Look,
Interesting.
all of this is to make one simple point. Do better, Taylor.
the last episode, the name of the episode was called The Worst Betrayal Since Kylie and Jordan. And it's very clear that the show is like really targeting certain, like this pop culture sort of realm where people are in, because they're making these references that are happening. So on and so
Netflix
forth.
has to do that.
It's
have
a
to make
clout
pop
chasing,
culture
break
reference.
the fourth wall show.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Or is it the fifth wall? I don't really know how that works.
They need to appeal to Gen Z and millennials. Taylor Swift is popping for them. They make a small joke about her, or a small negative connotation about her, which is, again, a Googleable fact. And then Taylor Swift tweets about it and gets them more attention at the end of the day. So,
Man.
I don't know. My ultimate take is when you get that big, you cannot be that pop. If I get big one day and someone makes a joke about me, like, I can't take it to heart. I can't start a whole movement and say, this is racism. It's like, it has to be really explicit for me to be out there and tweet to millions of people that are a cult-like following that this is bad, they should be canceled.
They didn't actually. The show didn't respond back, or Netflix.
Yeah,
Because they were like,
didn't
this is
respond back.
worthless and stupid, and you might have just made us $30 million. Why would we respond? Keep going. Keep going. Hey, quick question. Do you have a favorite Taylor Swift song?
Probably either You Belong With Me or the Love Story song about Romeo and Juliet.
That's crazy. Mine is easily Everything Has Changed with Ed Sheeran. When she, that video was so cute when she had that little daughter, and then Ed Sheeran had that little son, and they were like in preschool fighting and playing with the cookies.
Yeah, and now that you said Ed Sheeran as well, I can't think of it, but I'm sure Ed Sheeran has said some provocative stuff in lyrics before. And this goes back to our conversation last week about rappers. in art, you say provocative things.
It's provocative.
It gets the people going. It's how you get people's attention. So that line about the mattress and the actor and the actress, it got my attention. It's like, oh, you really don't like this girl because she stole your man, and you claim to such a degree that you are willing to be offensive and degrade sort of the feminist spirit of that song. It's like, but that's what Netflix is doing. It's like, this is just a content game. This is just getting people's attention game. To claim it's a social movement behind it is weird. Like, whenever celebrities try to get a social movement around a thing that makes money, it's very contradictory, because at some point down the supply chain, you're making a lot of money off something that's probably really bad. And that's not to say you shouldn't speak out against certain things, but you have to remember that you're contradicting when you do it. And you have to be very intentional about how you talk about these things, because if you're trying to be the social justice warrior of humanity and sexism, but you or yourself were a sexist by calling this person a slut, then it loses all legitimacy to your argument.
Yeah, you just,
for people who are smart enough to actually do the research and care. But to the regular people, yeah, you'll dupe them and say it's sexism, but they're obviously not going to do the research and realize that.
You got to pick your battles. This was a 3-minute Google that shot this down, and
that we turned into a 30-minute take that hopefully people care about.
Oh my gosh, she's so much worse.
I just think we did enough research on this to make an argument. And ultimately, I think if you're a celebrity, you have to be very careful with how you start social movements around things that are meant to either be humorous or meant to be taken in vain, or that you contradict yourself in. Yeah, and I hope if I ever get that big, I never do that.
I don't think her intention was to create a movement, or I don't think her intention was to create well, maybe it was, because you can't.
When you use the word sexism, it's movement oriented.
Also, once you're Taylor Swift, once you tweet something that is antagonistic towards someone else, you can't think it's not going to take off. Like, you're Taylor Swift.
Right. Your platform is not just you posting on Instagram. You're posting to 100 million people. Like, you are your own broadcasting company. When Justin Bieber Instagrams about religion every day, which he does because he's very religious, he is trying to send a political message out there to the world saying that you should believe in Jesus Christ. I mean, explicitly, he says these words. And that's he gets to do that. He's built up that following. He can do what he wants. But he can be called out on that as well. It's like, well, Justin Bieber, you've done some things that are very anti-Christian. And that's up for the rest of the world to criticize. So when you say this is sexist and then don't realize that in the past you've also said things that are very clearly sexist, it's very weird. And that was 30 minutes on Taylor Swift. Moving on. Paramount Plus. Okay. Has come out.
Respect on their name. It's no more Paramount. They evolved. It's not Charmander. It's Charizard.
Paramount Plus is out with a $10 streaming service per month. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this.
$10?
$10.
Is it worth it? Do you have it?
I think it's worth it. I got a month free trial. Probably going to cancel it after the month because I don't got that much time to watch stuff. But if I wasn't going to cancel it, I would cancel Netflix over Paramount. And here's why. Paramount owns a couple of brands that are pretty iconic. MTV, BET, Comedy Central, which whatever you want about Comedy Central, they have every pretty big stand-up outside of Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock centralized in one place. And Nickelodeon.
Wait. Who had the Chris Rock show?
There's a Chris Rock show?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If Paramount has a Chris Rock show, I'll get it. That show was iconic.
Paramount is owned by Viacom CBS. It's their new streaming service. They're trying to get into the streaming wars. To me, the reason this caught my attention is because Nickelodeon has some of the most iconic shows on the planet. And I think Paramount can beat Netflix. Now, when I say beat, Netflix is 193 million. Paramount has probably maybe 5 million as of launch. I think in the long term, they have the possibility to beat Netflix if they use their nostalgic brands as the basis to get new customers. Why do I have an argument for this? They gave Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender and iCarly, just the first couple seasons, to test out, right? They probably got a lot of money from Netflix to license it to them. iCarly is the top 10 show on the planet on Netflix over the past 3 weeks, and it's only the first 2 seasons. Avatar, when it came out, I think a year ago, was one of the top shows for a good 6-7 months on Netflix. Mm-hmm. That indicates to me that these shows are not only good, they're iconic brands that mass consumers will watch for them to be top 10 for that long on Netflix. Paramount's being very strategic here, because once you take away Avatar and iCarly, because they're licensed deals, Netflix doesn't own them, they leave the brand. This is what NBC did with The Office, which was one of the biggest shows on Netflix, and this is what HBO did with Friends, which is also the biggest show on Netflix. I think if Paramount keeps giving Netflix more and more of these shows that are iconic and gets the audience warm to them just the first season and then yanks them away, Netflix shouldn't do that in the negotiation because that would be stupid. they can get more people to come to Paramount.
Well, now
What are some shows?
Have they gotten the strategy off though?
Well, here are the shows I think they need to do to get the strategy off. Drake and Josh, Paramount owns. Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, Paramount owns. Fairly Odd Parents, Paramount owns.
Doesn't Hulu have Drake and Josh too?
I don't know, but if they do, it's with ads, and it's not exclusive to them.
Okay.
Jimmy Neutron, Paramount owns. As Told by Ginger, Paramount owns. What was that other really, really good? iCarly, the old 5 seasons.
I would assume they also own SpongeBob.
SpongeBob, they own. Keenan and Kel, they own.
All that.
The
Amanda
All That
show.
Amanda Show, they own. Paramount owns Rocket Power, right? Hey Arnold.
Power's on there?
Hey Arnold, Rocket Power.
Wait, they have Hey Arnold?
They have
Okay, so they have every Nickelodeon show, obviously.
Doug, Cat Dog, Ren and Stimpy. All of the most iconic, nostalgic 90s, mid-2000s brands that have encapsulated the amount of people that can actually pay for something like $10 a month because we grow up and now we make money, I think Paramount owns.
Yeah, and it's cheaper than Netflix.
Okay, here's my argument.
Why shouldn't Paramount be able to beat Netflix?
As you were saying these shows, I'm going to be honest with you, my heart filled with like so much love and joy and nostalgia. Like, you're just saying the word Jimmy Neutron and Rocket Power just makes me feel like I am 11 again. And that form of nostalgia for these types of shows are only going to be available to millennials because we know how powerful these shows were for us. However, the other day I was on your account and I tried to sit through an episode.
Said I was on the thing you pay for, not mine. I'm not paying.
It was a free trial.
It's a free trial. But I tried to sit through an episode of The Amanda Show. And I'm not going to lie to you.
It's hard to sit through.
I could not sit through one episode. And that being said, it's because we've evolved. So that is...
How dare you demonize the great Amanda Bynes, who I don't know or care about?
Well, we've evolved in the sense of like our taste in shows have
We've
changed,
evolved
right?
on the Amanda Show because that's kind of stupid humor.
We want Bridgerton now.
But iCarly was top 10 on Netflix for the past 3 weeks.
Okay.
Why isn't iCarly stupid little show, just like the Amanda Show,
No,
trending worldwide?
I'm going to just
iCarly is just a bunch of skits.
give a little pushback
No, it's
on
not.
that.
There's
There's a storyline, there's good acting, but at the end of the day, there's
iCarly
skits.
is pretty different. I will say, shows like iCarly, shows like the Avatar, which I told you before, Avatar
Talking
goes
about
across.
goated shows. Talking about goated shows.
Avatar goes across generations. Like that's not just like a millennial or a Gen Z
Facts,
show.
because there was the 100 years. That's why it goes.
Well, that's
Right.
that's my point.
So my
Paramount
argument-
has enough of those transcendent shows to, I think, get subscribers. from
that's where I disagree with you. I don't think it has that many of
Danny
those
Phantom?
shows. That's a good show. I will say that's a good
Big
show.
Time Rush.
Actually,
Big Time Rush was a good show.
Actually,
remember
I
that
believe
one.
I believe Netflix might be getting Big Time Rush as well.
But it would only be licensed. My
Yeah.
point is they can
But
yank it.
The argument is that a lot of these,
Rugrats?
well, right? So a lot, all grown up,
Victorious?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All these shows are huge, but I do think it's going to be introduced to a new generation.
The Wild Thornberries?
But the people, but listen up.
Okay.
The people
You're
who are-
listening good shows. You
The
are listening
people
good
who are
shows.
paying for these subscriptions most likely would not be watching a lot of these shows. I think a lot of these shows.
But why?
why? Will be opened up to a younger generation. I think that's what it would be.
iCarly is not supposed to be for 22-year-olds. Right?
How dare you? iCarly is for anybody.
But that's
don't you dare
that's
diss
my
me.
point. But
But there
it's
are
not
some
supposed to
shows.
be.
But
It was
there
on
are some
Nickelodeon when it came out. It
Right.
was not on HBO.
I'm not saying every Nickelodeon show is
So
like
was George
that.
Lopez. That show is for
Nick
everybody.
at Night. That was on Nick at Night, though.
Who cares?
Yeah,
Still
the kids were
Nickelodeon.
supposed to be
Yeah.
asleep at that time. My point is, why can't they license Drake and Josh for a season, yank it back, and take a couple million subscribers?
This is my thing. If they had shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Full House, shows like that, I could see your argument. But I think a lot of these other shows that you mentioned might not transcend through all generations of
But if
viewers.
iCarly is
But
doing that
Netflix
right
does.
now,
Netflix has all for every like category. So for all for younger generations, for teenagers, for adults, like it has everything. I don't know if Paramount has the amount of movies. Maybe you might win
Definitely
in terms of TV
it
shows.
doesn't have movies for
But
sure.
it doesn't have those movies that Netflix does have, and that's why I think Netflix would win long term.
Let me tell you how crazy this is. Netflix is. I've literally watched like Filipino and Dutch and German movies for no reason, just because they were on the Netflix catalog. I don't know what crazy power Netflix has, but at a
See,
certain
but that's
point,
an interesting point. Netflix's brand gets you to buy into watching some probably bad movie just because it's on Netflix.
I eventually I like for example, there was one that I watched exclusively in Dutch that was called The Resistance Banker, and that movie was instrumental in making me want to learn Dutch.
And you wouldn't watch that on Paramount? Why? Because it's not Netflix?
Because Paramount doesn't have it.
No, but what if they did? My point is the brand of Netflix seems to me subconsciously you're like, I'll watch it because it's on Netflix, right? Like what you're pointing to is that there is a level of brand equity there.
Yeah, because Netflix has like a 10-year head start is my point.
No, but Paramount theoretically has a 40-year head start. They have more content over the past 50 years of IP that they can offer. But there's something about the brand of Netflix that both of you are talking about. We'll try out Bridgerton even though if it was on HBO, we might not because it's on Netflix,
it's
right?
Something new. I think that's what it is. It's like that sense of like it's always innovative. Netflix is innovative. That's what it is. There's always going to be new shows. They're always going to be producing more, and you buy into that innovation versus the nostalgia.
So I think that's the argument: innovation versus nostalgia. I don't think, as you're saying it, I don't think I can win nostalgia beats innovation. Because we want new things, as you said. Like Bridgerton, Queen's Gambit. A lot of these shows are very diverse as well.
I almost want to I want to cry when I hear I feel so emotional when I hear shows like As Told by Ginger, Jimmy Neutron, because it is so ingrained in your childhood.
Yes.
But will I sit through a Saturday watching it? Probably not. Will my kids? When I have kids, maybe. But they
might not even be appealing to it, to be honest.
It might not because it's kids every generation is evolving, right?
I could easily see myself, low-key, I might do that. I might get Paramount Plus this free trial, and then I would pull the ultimate back to my 11-year-old self. Bowl of cereal, Saturday morning
Jimmy
cartoons.
Neutron, right?
Oh, that's gonna be so fun! I can't wait. I'm actually gonna do that. I think I'm gonna set it up. Imagine being able to, almost like you were transported. I'm going to wait till it's a day when everybody's out the house, because there were some days that were like that, and I would do absolute BS. I'd make a peanut butter jelly sandwich for lunch, and I don't know.
You would have a day of self-care, basically.
Yeah, I'm going to see what it was like to be 11 again, and then probably at the end of it, I'll be like, why the hell did I like this when I was 11?
So I think the strategy then is if Paramount can't beat, but Paramount wouldn't launch a streaming service if they didn't have the intentions to make more money.
Yeah,
but
they're gonna make money. That's for sure.
But I think the argument you guys are saying is that they should license Drake and Josh for $700 million for 5 years to Netflix, because you're not going to get 70 million people to pay $10 a month for Drake and Josh. At that point, Paramount's doing, and this speaks to the broader media market, they're doing a very bad strategy. Why are you housing all of that IP to yourself when you could give it all to Netflix for potentially billions and just let Netflix do the work of getting the people? They know it's more valuable to own those $10 a month. Obviously, it's more valuable to own it. But if you can't innovate at the level of Netflix is doing, and nostalgia is not going to get them there, you're not going to get it done. Now, Disney Plus, different exception. Disney Plus got 95 million subscribers in 14 months. It took Netflix 9 years. So Disney Plus's IP, obviously, Lion King is just better than Rugrats.
Disney Plus just has those shows,
and they have the Avengers as well.
Right, Disney just has
and they got the Disney Channel movies
than just Nickelodeon.
Right. Remember those movies?
But now here's the advancing the conversation. Can Disney innovate to keep up with Netflix? Because you don't have any more IP. They put out 150 years of content.
Disney has Beyonce, so yes, they'll probably keep innovating.
No,
right?
but Beyonce,
they have to move. They have to move past
the
just the shows. At a certain point, do y'all remember when Disney Channel shows used to be phenomenal?
Yes, but those shows are horrible now.
The last 4 Disney shows that have come out have just been unwatchable.
Does Disney ever create a Bridgerton? They have the money and they have the resources.
They can't. Disney has to be very PG.
But that's the thing. Do they have to be PG?
But Disney's whole brand is being very much for the children.
But Disney Plus's brand is not about children.
It is. It's mostly all children-based
as
shows.
of now.
But I think they lose their audience.
So can they take creative risks? Is my question.
Parents are very much so.
They can, but not in the same way. For example, messing with the Star Wars franchise by introducing the Mandalorian, that was a risk.
But it succeeded.
Paid off.
Right. It paid off.
Yeah.
But I think parents are more comfortable of their kids watching Disney shows. Disney Channel should be kid-friendly
but Disney
versus on Netflix.
Yeah, but you could have parental controls and blocks and stuff. That's pretty easy to go around.
It just goes against the brand of family-friendly.
Yeah, I don't think Disney has
Disney
an
Plus
incentive
never
to do
beats
that.
Netflix is your argument.
at a certain point, I don't think they're in competition because it's two different lanes.
But okay, they already have half the number of subscribers in 14 months.
Yeah, they're in a different lane.
But they just have to get another 100 million, and
Yeah.
they're in business. So
well, they're in business now. I
mean, they're legitimate competitors.
Like
at that
I
point.
could reasonably see Disney Plus's strategy being not contingent on overtaking Netflix at all. I don't think that.
Why? That makes they want to gain.
Sure, they want to,
share.
but they want to for the same reason.
Two different lanes.
Yeah.
It's two different types of shows.
No,
Like,
but they're in the. At
That's
the end of the day,
like
you have
being
$8. Is it going to Netflix or Disney?
That's like saying
that's the same lane.
That's like saying Tom Brady's incentive for winning for trying to win the Super Bowl is that he wants to be seen as a greater athlete than LeBron James. No, his incentive is that he wants to be a good football player.
That's a horrible analogy because who's Disney competing against outside of Netflix?
Nickelodeon?
What are you talking about? They're not competing with TV.
Oh, I'm talking about Disney
Plus.
I'm talking about networks. Sorry.
Yeah, we're not talking about networks. We're talking about streaming.
Disney's an entire brand.
Yeah, but
Disney Plus as a thing doesn't matter if it's not about
here's
Disney
the reason
brand.
you're incorrect. The whole reason they launched Disney Plus is because everyone is cutting the cord. There's a reason why ESPN and Hulu are bundled with Disney Plus because no one's paying for ESPN anymore. No one cares about the cord. Everyone's doing direct to consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So this means it is a competition between Disney Plus and Netflix that also has ESPN and Hulu, which is not friendly. Hulu is not family friendly at all.
Hulu is not branded as that though. Disney
but
Channel
it's in the package of Disney Plus.
Disney Channel.
You can pay $12.99 for all three of those.
For what? Hulu.
Disney owns 60% of Hulu, so yes.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know.
But they can push themselves. But at least Disney can distance the brand away from that, right? So, for example, if you're like take Creative Race and they house all of it in Hulu and have Hulu just produce those shows, that's fine. But then if Disney themselves is producing it, right, and it's not as part of a package, it's just as part of initially Disney Plus, they can't produce a show like Bridgerton.
So you don't think Disney can get 100?
They have cut-arounds to go around the brand. Like when some athlete on ESPN says something wild, that probably goes against the Disney brand. But we would never hold Disney accountable for something that some athlete said in an interview.
So my question is, can Disney ever compete with Netflix with another 100 million to catch the numbers if they don't take creative risks? Like, is the IP of Donald Duck enough over the next couple months to get them to 100 million?
I don't know.
Theoretically, it should.
It depends on what the boom is. For example, if like. So when something like the World Cup happens, for example,
yes,
Disney's going to get a massive boom.
Why?
On people that want to watch it on ESPN, if ESPN has like rights.
But I'm talking about the streaming service. I'm talking about getting people to pay $10 a month. How does Disney ultimately catch Netflix? Paramount, we've decided, can't do it. I think they should license all their content to Netflix and make money that way. Disney Plus is the only one that could potentially do it.
Maybe.
How do they get there if they don't do Bridgerton? Like, are they just appealing to the audience that would never like Bridgerton, and they're just appealing to 300 million people that want Donald Duck? And
I think that's what they're doing. I think they're appealing to the children.
Get everyone.
Kids. Right.
Get a little bit of it. That you got the little kids, you got the sports people, you got the people that want new shows through Hulu. Low key, it's going to come down to how many things can they absorb before antitrust law starts killing them.
Interesting.
That's gonna determine whether or not they can beat Netflix.
I think the best thing you said is their Hulu is their ability to do creative risks. But the thing is, if a show's on Disney Plus, it has so much more leverage than if it's on Hulu. Because Disney Plus is like where so many more people are at, in my opinion. And there's no ads on Disney Plus. Like, that's the true competitor to Netflix. That's why the streaming thing is getting so exciting.
Yeah, I just think Netflix is free. And I think their freedom is going to help them win in the long run because they are all about the creators making things, and they give a lot of the creators on there a lot of leeway of doing what they want. So I think when you are so free, you have the ability to take risks.
I really like that point. Netflix is free, man. Like, the amount of shit they should get quote unquote canceled for, including this Taylor Swift joke that we just talked about, and the CEO has to answer none of it. Yep. The last time I saw the CEO get questioned on one of their content shows was when Hassan Minhaj talked about the Saudi Arabia prince killing thing, the free speech thing, and they had to pull the show from Saudi Arabia. And I think they asked Reed Hastings, like, yo, what's up with you, free speech? I forgot the answer he gave. He gave some politically correct answer, but the point is that was the only time.
Ended too. It was a great show.
They probably ended that show for that reason, to be honest.
It was a great show.
But that's crazy because it's just like he's responsible for the content. Like, at the end of the day, Reed Hastings has to, even if he didn't literally approve it, he has to respond to when people say your content is edgy or blah, 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 blah. And he seems to have a great time.
He's like, I don't care.
He's like, our stock price is at $500 a share. It's going to be at $1,000 a share in a couple of years. Like,
look, y'all can hate me. What?
I love that.
You don't like Hassan Minhaj? All right, Hassan, here's your buyout. Sorry, the people don't like you. You have a good day.
They literally made a show about a guy stalking a girl and eventually killing her in You. And no one cares. They think it's entertainment.
What was the suicide one? 13 Reasons Why?
13 Reasons Why.
They did get in a ton of trouble for that. It was like... But at the same time, it's like even then, I don't think they still. I really don't think they cared. The show is still up, and they were just like, yeah, well, all the trouble they got in was social commentary about how they were, being insensitive.
Were they trying to glorify suicide to some extent, or?
I think that's what people were saying. I think that's one of the part of the reason they didn't get in trouble the trouble that would have gotten us in a cancel Netflix type mood is because that was basically an unfalsifiable claim. Like you couldn't prove that their intentions were to glorify. They did actively say it was bad, and the show was marketed as a drama, so they could easily skirt all that criticism and just make it social commentary about whether or not the show was good versus an indication about the alignment of the platform.
Yo, Netflix's power is hopefully the power that every human has one day.
Which is? The power to make shows?
The power to not get canceled.
That is not a power that every human should have. That is incorrect and ridiculous. There are some people cancel culture.
I guess there's some people
crazy.
there's some people we need to cancel. I get, but those are way too much of the extremes for you to say that like every person should not. I'm saying free speech at the end of the day. Netflix has full freedom of speech. They can do whatever the fuck they want because they know that they're creatively taking risks.
That's weird. I don't know if free speech is as under attack as we think, but I do get the point.
David, there's some institutions that are attacking free speech. There are. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I do think at the point where certain colleges and administrations are literally barring particular professors from even giving speeches or letting them come on campus. Like at the point where Berkeley bans Ben Shapiro. The fuck, you're banning just a conservative guy who has different views on gender? Like, come on, bro.
I don't know. I think
you can say you don't agree with him, but to ban him from speaking that's weird.
So. Actually, this is interesting. Explain the Berkeley ban again, because I thought all
there are a bunch of people who doesn't like what he says about trans people and his remarks on gender. So they literally protested and they didn't let him speak.
What? Who didn't let him speak?
The kids at Berkeley.
That's not the university saying he can't speak.
It doesn't matter. It's the social.
No.
No. It does matter
because hold on. Because then what you're saying is that we should trade in the First Amendment. Actually, not even. What you're saying is we trade in the right to free speech for the right to protest, which is like ridiculous because they're the same amendment.
I'm saying it's weird for people to protest against someone who simply has different views and literally stop him from entering the auditorium to speak.
That's
just a protest. That's just how protests work.
But think about what the protest is. You're violently not letting this guy get into the auditorium.
Violently?
Yes, he had to have security guards get him through the door.
Well, that's different from if it was violent, they were attacking. But if they were literally just outside, like
if they were like, we won't let you come in, that's called a picket line.
Sure,
it's actually a staple of protest.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like, that's not.
My point is, free speech is good, and Netflix has ultimate freedom of speech. It would be awesome for every human to realize that the type of argument you're making is leads to the places that don't have free speech, leads to Jamal Khashoggi type of instances.
No, that's not.
Yes, it does.
Being like,
what limits are you talking about?
No, because all I'm saying is that everyone. Because I do agree that Berkeley being like, because here's the thing: an institution has the right to decide who will speak at it, right? That's actually what they like. You can't just pull up like Ben Shapiro can't just pull up on Berkeley turf and be like, "I'm giving this speech, bring 1 million people here." Like that's
obviously it's organized.
But even at that level, Berkeley didn't ban Ben Shapiro. There are just so many people that hate him that they could form a mass movement against him.
That's fine.
That's just protest. That's not an attack.
That's cool.
On free
I'm
speech.
just saying in general. My point is,
and that does not lead to Jamal Khashoggi.
The argument you said that humans should not have the ability to not get canceled. Does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Because David? This is a simple argument.
Saying we should cancel R. Kelly is not the same thing as saying we should never have as saying that, that Saudi Arabia is good.
You've gone to the extremes of a pedophile who obviously we should not endorse.
Yeah.
But when you're saying every human shouldn't have cancel,
every human should not. Yes, because that pedophile was a human. Every human should not be free of cancellation.
Most humans should.
Sure,
99.9%.
I can agree with that because most humans are not pedophiles.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, I just disagree with every human, and I disagree with the idea that we can equate those things and be like it's a slippery slope towards Saudi Arabia.
Well, it is a slippery slope, though. We have to. We should still allow R. Kelly. R. Kelly should still be able to say stuff, right? Even if we don't respect it.
Sure.
That's my point.
And we have the right.
That's my point.
And we have the right to not listen. Nobody said Ben Shapiro. Shapiro has 1 million platforms. The Berkeley kids were just like, "Hey, we hate."
Okay, you're not listening. Netflix has the right to say whatever they want and then don't get in trouble. I'm saying that should exist for all humans.
Not whatever they want.
Hey, but that you just said he can say whatever he wants, but we don't have to listen.
Yeah, he can disagree.
So which side are you on?
So for example, if Ben Shapiro,
I'm not talking about Ben. I'm talking about R. Kelly.
Yeah, R. Kelly, fine. Well, R. Kelly, I think he should be canceled for other stuff. But
he should still be allowed to say things. Yeah, right?
But if R. Kelly
even if we don't have to listen.
But if R. Kelly said, like, for example, some wildly anti-Semitic thing, to some degree, he should be canceled. If Ben Shapiro calls somebody the N-word,
he should be canceled.
He should be canceled.
But what do you? But
that's something he can say that should. I'm just saying that it's too. I think that that part of the reason why cancel culture is ridiculous is because we take too much is because we take too much offense to things that do not cross that high threshold, what you defined as the extreme. I do think the extreme should be left open, and the extreme can definitely be words.
Sure.
That's why I'm just like, not every human should be free of cancellation.
Okay, so I think
everyone should have the potential.
Hold
on, yeah. So hold on. So I think we're saying the same thing. Every human should be able to say whatever they want. We agree with that.
Yeah, and then when they say something that is extremely offensive,
sure,
that they wanted to, we should cancel
people
it.
should condemn what they have said.
Yes.
I.e., you can call it cancel, whatever you want to call it. I'm just saying Netflix, going back to the discussion, has the ability to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
That to me is good because whether or not we watch the show or not, they can still do it.
Yeah.
So at what point does Netflix not have... my point is, I don't think Netflix can ever be canceled.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that point, right? Again, the only thing I disagreed with you on was the Jamal Khashoggi, like, it's a slippery slope type thing. Because, like, if Netflix produces something in a show that people view as racially insensitive, it's like, yeah, we can choose not to watch that show, et cetera, et cetera. When Reed Hastings comes out and is like, and is doing some, like, wild racist stuff, then we can be like, all right, boycott this platform. That's fine to me. Like that makes perfect sense to me. I just think that there's no level of an extreme that's like anything and everything that's offensive should be canceled. Too extreme. Nothing should be canceled. Too extreme. There's a middle ground somewhere, and it's partially intuitive. But I feel like Netflix is on the extreme, whereas they can't be canceled because Netflix had too many moments where they could have been canceled, right? Well, they haven't been able to. Yeah, that's my point. Netflix had too many. For example, but for example, they literally had to cancel the Hassan Minhaj show, the Patriot Act. Right. Netflix is too big to fail as an institution. But the things they do it's not like the things they do can't be canceled or condemned. The reason why R. Kelly could be canceled is because he was a person and he was living a lifestyle that was about that. Sure. Right? I'm saying the metaphor here is I want every human to almost be as like Netflix, as in they have the ability to say what they want, but if they say something bad, they have to cancel themselves like they canceled Hassan Minhaj. But it's good for every human to have Netflix-like power.
But I think David is saying that, like, Netflix-like power is not accessible to the average person.
Well, that's my point. Well, he's
like everyone should, and I'm just like, I understand the rationale for that.
It's freedom. We talked about Netflix having freedom.
But at the same degree, I'm like, if you can make the claim that it's a slippery slope, that not giving everyone that power is a slippery slope towards Saudi Arabia, I can make the claim that giving everyone that power is a slippery slope towards, like, I don't know, some other offensive power where people just demonize people based on their views, right? Like I can make the exact same transitional claim.
How do you get to your side?
Because
my side's very clear. It's proven through history when people can't say what they want.
Well, yeah, and my side is also proven through history when people can say what they want. They demonize entire populations, China, the Uyghurs, etc. Right?
But that requires other people buying into that stuff.
Yeah, and
it doesn't require hold on. The reason they said it,
and the only way but the only way they can buy into it is if someone vocalizes it. That's literally how dictators.
Right, and
every dictator begins with a phenomenal speech.
The only way to go against it is if someone says the opposite, which means my side has to win at that point.
No.
Yeah, it is. No. Because as soon as you tell people they can't say a certain thing, then the people who want to fight up against that aren't able to ever speak. Because created a limit.
So being like people can't, being like that's ridiculous. Being like people can't say, because we already have the basis for those things.
No,
right? Like no one needs to say something else racist for us to condemn racism now because we had slavery. Yeah, we had an institution. So the idea that we need new uniqueness so that we can fight against this doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. We've pretty much gone through every offensive thing we could have. It's just whether or not we repeat and re-articulate them. Like anti-Semitism, you can't. We already have the basis for claiming that anti-Semitism is bad. We don't need someone else to say something anti-Semitic for that to be true.
So you're saying if every human had Netflix-like power, there could be way too much of the opposite of freedom of speech.
Right. There could be
too many people saying too many bad things. I think your argument is contingent upon enough people believing in the bad stuff that the people say.
And I think it's just too random, right? Yes. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like we don't wait for a problem to arise before we decide that we want to deal with it, right? And I think that to some degree that extremist is bad, and the other extreme is bad.
As in if the Proud Boys had a platform where they weren't canceled and they were continuously saying the crazy shit they're saying, your argument is because of the history of that type of movements, those horrible movements, people would horribly coalesce around that type of Proud Boy sentiment.
Because at some point, somebody's going to be a powerful David Duke type speaker,
right?
And then we got a problem.
Trump, and that's why he was taken off of like Twitter and Facebook.
Right, that was
because
all capital
something
rights.
like
And then my
that
argument is, well,
happened.
if we never have that much type of power, it can lead to potentially other types of wherewithals of limiting people's speech, which leads to different types of dictatorship.
That's
so
true.
the balance has to be.
Trump was the closest to someone with Netflix-like power until he was canceled, and
That's
you
true.
saw how the effects
that was
of
necessary.
what happened.
That was very necessary.
Right. So at that point, it's just
At least in our opinion, that because I've actually listened to a lot of people that said it was a bad thing.
yeah, I
for him
understand.
to get
I
canceled.
understand those people as well. Like again, it's not
And
like
these
the
are progressive
argument's not
people.
valid.
These are progressive people. These are not conservatives.
See,
These are Bernie Sanders people saying don't deplatform people. That's bad.
See, this is
then
why
it comes
actually-
after you. And I think they have a merit here. They have an argument. Like, was when it comes after you, you can't say that because then your Twitter is picking sides.
Yeah, I agree.
But ultimately, I agree. I think he was inciting riots that deserve to be deplatformed.
Yeah.
But it is a slippery slope. That truly is a slippery
And it's just a
slope.
question of whether, and I think that part of the problem is just like you're like, oh, it's random. It will inevitably come back to bite you, and it's like if it does, that's fine. But I'd rather have that random element than choose an extreme.
Right.
But also, I get that argument, but I find it hard to believe that an average person will ever have that much power like Trump where it'll come back to them.
Oh, they won't,
right?
for
Like,
sure.
they
It's
won't.
not about
sure
the
they
average
won't.
person. It's about movements and people talking about certain things.
But they only did it, and they did it after 4 years after it incited
It was
violence.
definitely unique circumstances. It's just that if it ever happens to you, because particular people don't like how you're speaking.
Yeah,
And
but
if the Capitol
like,
riots never happened, I don't think
think about
he
it. Think
would
about it.
ever
If
have been
Jack
taken
Dorsey
off.
wasn't the CEO,
Yeah,
if
but
it
don't
was-
incite. But
if it
how
was some conservative like nut job as the CEO of Twitter who just happened to make Twitter 10 years ago, Trump wouldn't have been deplatformed.
Sure. How many people have? My point is precisely how many people have the like power to incite a Capitol riot.
Can we be
Probably
honest
not a
though?
lot.
Can there be a conservative who's in charge of such a huge platform?
Let's actually transition into that. So let's just talk about this.
Sure.
Why hasn't there been a conservative that's been a major CEO of a tech company? Mark Zuckerberg, liberal. Jack Dorsey, liberal. Reed Hastings, liberal. Who's that other guy? Google, Sundar Pichai, pretty liberal. Larry Page, liberal. Elon Musk, I'm pretty sure he votes Democrat. Even though I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but
I don't know.
He's not super conservative.
He reads liberal. At least that Joe Rogan Spoken Weed podcast reads liberal. To me.
Right. Why hasn't there been a conservative tech CEO?
Um,
Because there are many other conservative CEOs. Like the guy who made Home Depot, he literally wrote a book called I Love Capitalism.
the Goya dude.
Yeah. I think his name is Ken Hamilton. I might be wrong
You
on
can
that.
love capitalism, but also be
No,
a
but he's
liberal.
he's capital.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know what I mean? Like he's capitalism.
You're
Capitalism.
talking about right wing capital.
Yeah.
Sure.
Same
you're-
thing with
you're
the Whole
asking- you're
Foods
asking
CEO.
why?
Yes.
So this is I don't know. First of all, the obviously the interesting thing is that all of these have been at the turn of the century, and I think that there's kind of a shift towards like liberalism at the turn or liberal like ideology at the turn of the century.
But a shift, but to the most powerful people in the world, you're saying that shift towards
Yeah,
liberalism.
you're saying it's like it's weird.
How do
that
they
there's
all
a
affect all of
correlation.
them? Yeah.
You're saying it's weird. The correlation is that they're all. I personally think that it's just correlative. I don't know if there's a causal relationship between believing in liberal ideology and making tech startups.
Okay, my argument is most of these tech startups are communication tools, right?
Sure.
Pretty much all of them are communication devices, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. Regardless of the fact that the founders came from Stanford and they're millennial and stuff, which probably contributes to it, when you're making a communication tool, it's very difficult to be on the conservative sides of issues in a world in which communication intrinsically is about inclusivity. Communication is about hearing all voices, hearing all perspectives. That just screams diversity and inclusion to me, and valuing people for their religious beliefs, for their racial beliefs, like for the attributes of their personalities that matter when it comes to communication. Because if a black person is communicating with a Jewish person, there are perspectives that are influencing how they communicate on these platforms. If you are conservative and you don't care about the arbitrary factors like race or religion, which most conservatives don't because their value system is based on individualism, content of your character type of stuff, then it's hard to build a platform at scale that includes all those different perspectives.
That's weird because in my mind, I understand that it's hard to believe in a platform like that, but why could you not theoretically build one? Right, like
So there has to be
like-
something of the CEO that
like
permeates.
Facebook is just a series of code, some layout that allows people to communicate, right?
But no,
I understand
but
that they can
Facebook's a
disagree.
culture as well, right? The 48,000 people, there's
Sure.
a culture in that company.
Sure.
And the culture makes the company work, right?
But this is precisely the point: cultural appropriation. Why can't like I understand a conservative may not agree with that culture, may disagree with the idea of diversity and inclusion, and may think that all of those facts are arbitrary. But it's still a little like just because you disagree with it doesn't mean that you can't enter it. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a ton of people that are like in like music or like listen to, or participate in particular forms of music that they don't like necessarily align with.
So maybe it's conservatives don't care enough about building communication-based technologies. They care about more like oil and gas type shit. Like
maybe I really
Home
just think that the
Depot
first 6 people to find it just happen to be liberal. Like, I'm not going to lie.
You think it's that random?
I really
think
do.
that's weird, bro.
Because I don't see the correlation between political affiliation and building a tech startup.
But also, like, all those communication tools and platforms, you also need creators and people on your side.
That's the argument. You need creatives.
If you do have...
Okay.
When you're conservative, you're already anti-creative. Just like, I'm not saying you have to be anti-creative. I'm saying
I think the creators are anti-you.
Yes, that's the argument.
Yes, that's where I was going. I don't think they're anti-creative. I think the creators, as in the actors, the actresses, Hollywood, like all the influencers, they are most likely are going to be liberal.
Well, but here's the question. Why did I say if you're conservative, you're more along the lines of anti-creative? The reason for that is because creativity is an expression of oneself.
Yeah,
trust
me, conservatives are all about expressing themselves.
No, but expressing yourself. When I talk about the experiences that my race has implicated in my music.
Oh yeah, that's not them though.
But that's my point. Most creators on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, they're talking about their personal experiences that have led to their creative work. Most conservatives don't care about that. They're anti-personal experience.
No, I don't think so.
No, most conservatives think that it's not about your race or your gender. It's about
maybe you're talking more so about this social, right? Like versus your race and your gender.
I'm talking about this purely from a social play
right.
when it comes to creating content.
But the way you're phrasing it, I don't think conservatives are against personal expression because you can still express yourself even if it has nothing to do with your race and your gender.
Yeah, but you
can talk about your family experiences. You can talk about you could talk about so many different things other than just your identity like your racial identity.
Yes, but you don't see anyone giving speeches at conservative conventions about their racial background. Whereas at the
but you do about your upbringing and about your
not true.
About
if it is, it's being used to tokenize.
Yeah, absolutely. But that does exist
because there's not that many diverse conservatives. They're all white. Like a lot of them are white. Like my point is, creativity is intrinsically diversity oriented because you have to appeal to different audiences, which means you have to talk about different experiences from your
that's
from
the
your
thing.
life.
Is that I just don't think a parlor
liberals are more on that side of the
angle.
country.
I don't think something like Parler is appealing to the country, like in the way that Facebook would be.
But my point is, why does Facebook have a liberal CEO? Creatives make Facebook what it is.
Well, so again, I sort of
liberalism is attached to creativity way more than conservatism. I think that's obvious. Conservatism is not attached to creativity because it's about traditions and values, whereas liberalism is about breaking the fucking rules, knocking the door down.
I don't know,
and being more on that side.
So again, part of this is also that we have like a very loose definition of creativity. Because like I would imagine that all of these conservatives think Morgan Wallen has the most creative lyrics ever. I'm pretty sure that they think that all of their news shows that are basically the same thing.
Bro, why is Hollywood all liberal? Like at the end of the day, there has to be a positive correlation between creativity and your mindset.
I'm not gonna lie.
Your political affiliation is just your
storylines are also better. Like,
hold on,
who wants to watch a story about?
Well, why?
About a perfect
why
woman?
are they better?
Who wants to watch a story about a perfect woman that goes to church every single Sunday? Takes care of her kids?
We want to see problems, we want to see adversity, and we want to see adversity based on personal experience.
Yeah.
All of that has to do with arbitrary characteristics that conservatives usually theoretically don't care about. They don't care about your race and gender. They're like, yo, it's America, the American dream, right?
Right, so I don't know if creativity is the right word. I think it's more so than just diversity.
Well, no, but diversity to me is what makes creativity beautiful.
And I think creativity is what makes diversity beautiful because there is a distinction in experiences.
Right, but you have to be diverse in order to create because your diverse experience gets people to relate to you. And you have to have the necessity to create, which requires you to be diverse because you've actually gone through shit that's worth sharing, that's worth creating about. Those people tend to be more liberal because the conservative ideology as a abstract concept is anti super diversity and inclusion because it's all about individual merit.
Yo, here's another question. What if all these people are like, what if, and like assuming you're right about this,
I think I know where you're going with this.
What if all of these like people that make them like the tech like Bill Gates or whatever, what if they were secret conservatives?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, the real take here
is like, I actually just infiltrated. I know exactly what it is, but I got to keep this persona so that people will buy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're against being taxed, right? I'm sure they are against.
The real take is,
policies.
did they vote for Trump? Because if they voted for Trump, they did it not because of the social stuff, because I genuinely don't think they're that socially conservative. It was for money. But I truly don't think Zuckerberg voted for Trump. Like, as much as it would hurt him on his benefit his taxes, I think he genuinely is running a creative company. Yes, I know he has a bunch of weird motives, but that creative company relies on him being within the creative group of society, which is liberals.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's the correlation. Either they're secretly conservative and they're putting on a front.
We'll never really know who they.
Yeah, I don't know if
voted
that. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's definitely reasonable.
It's definitely reasonable to assume that. Yep. Square. Jack Dorsey. he just bought $297 million worth of Tidal, the streaming service. So pretty cool. When I say that Jack Dorsey, a tech CEO of a $50 billion communications company, bought a majority stake in a music streaming service owned by Jay-Z, or started by Jay-Z, what is your reaction to that?
Good for Jay-Z?
Very good for Jay-Z. Why do you think Jack Dorsey did that? Actually, sorry, the Twitter didn't buy it. Square
bought it, right?
His financial services company bought it.
Yeah, so it can't be anything, because my initial thought was immediately like, oh, they want to institute maybe a partnership
with music and Twitter.
Integrate music into Twitter, maybe use Twitter as a way to a way to maybe turn Twitter into Spotify with comments, where you could where you could insert filter in your music, and then you could have conversations about the music that you're listening to at any one time. I thought that would be pretty cool as a feature. But if it's only the financial group and they're not attempting to actually buy the entire company out from
okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about that idea. Why wouldn't that work?
What?
A streaming service injected into a communications platform. So like Instagram was if Instagram was Spotify, and people were scrolling through the feed and they saw photos and they saw the newest Drake song, and they listened to it on Spotify, which means they pressed play and it's streaming while they're scrolling through other stuff, right? So they're getting to listen to the music while consume other content.
Because that's what
and then comment on the song.
That's what happens when like musicians do like leaks and like feature drops on their Instagram lives.
Yes.
Like when they debut songs
Instagram is a musical promotional tool, as it is a promotional tool for anything. But if Instagram actually owned the music like Spotify does, and you could stream music on Instagram,
they'd be massive.
Why wouldn't they do that? There has to be a reason why they wouldn't do that.
Well, at this
because they can compete with Spotify. Spotify does nothing other than give people music. That's it, which is a pretty big thing to do. But at the point where you can't
Spotify
do anything,
doesn't also officially like Spotify is a distribution platform, not a licensing one, right?
No, they pay the record labels royalties from people listening to the music. So the record labels provide them the content.
But the record labels still own the content, right?
Record labels still own the content, yes.
Right. So
they make a lot of money off Spotify, because where else are you going to listen to music? Because people don't buy albums,
that's
right?
The point, right?
So it's just streaming.
I think that's the reason why they won't do it, is because every record label has a good deal with Spotify, or has a decent enough deal with Spotify.
But Instagram or Twitter could undercut them massively because they just have more money than Spotify.
That's true. The question is about whether or not they want to, like, do you really want to take on that venture? Does it constitute? Well, actually, if you're just instituting it as a feature of your own platform,
because it's not like
you can't be antitrusted on that, right?
No, you can't be antitrusted, and it's not like Instagram's losing people's attention. The music's in the background; it's playing in the background. It's not like I have to stare at a YouTube video where I can't stare at an Instagram photo. Because YouTube is what you're talking about, where the music video is in the feed, or the song with the backdrop. You click on it and people can comment. You're saying, what if that was on Twitter? I think that would be huge if that was on Twitter.
That could be.
Because Twitter is already a very creative audience that's looking for music.
Licensed by me, David Asafu J. Just to let everyone put any ideas out there.
That's really interesting. But Square, the financial services, bought it. So the sort of argument here that I wanted to go for is just Jay-Z is extremely acute and aware of what he's doing. Because this is a series of acquisitions. He bought, I think, Tidal for like $50 million back in 2014 or 2016, flipped it for 3 times the amount of money, or 4 times, or almost 5 times the amount of money. Sold 50% of the Ace of Spades champagne brand.
But did he flip all of Tidal?
No, he flipped a majority ownership. But basically, he doesn't own that much more of it because he's now on the board of Square. So he's on the board of the company that bought the streaming service, which means he probably gave away like 90% of his ownership. I think Jay-Z is executing on what he said he was going to do in 444. When he said, I'm trying to give you $1 million worth of game for $9.99. And when he was saying, you're holding all that money at your ear, there's a disconnect. We don't call that money over here. Like, he was talking about Instagram rappers who hold big chunks of money to their ear and are acting like they're on the phone with something for clout. His thesis was, that's stupid. That's not real money. That's barely any money. If anything, that's like maybe $20,000-$30,000. I just made $297 million because I was patient. Just like I made $2 million off of... Yeah, just like I made $2 million off a painting in that he bought in the Dumbo line, and he flipped it for 25. I can't wait to give this shit to my children. That type of line. So I think he's executing very acutely on some of the stuff that he ultimately said he was going to do. To me, do you think other rappers follow what he's doing?
No.
Because what he did in okay, so I'll ask you one second. What he did when he was 26.
Lil Uzi is not doing this.
That's true. Lil Uzi's not doing. Lil Uzi's putting
he put $24 million diamond in his head. That man's not. He's not buying a streaming service.
Because to me, when Jay-Z put out his album when he was 26, over the next 20 years, he gave the framework for artists on how to really make and promote their music. And Drake followed that. Kanye followed that. All these rappers followed that.
Read this.
Okay, yes. So not Jay-Z. David just showed me a line that says, LMAO, Jay-Z could sell y'all into slavery, and people would still explain how it's a sound business move.
Yo.
Not gonna lie. Jay-Z can do the point of that meme is that Jay-Z can start selling anything and make people think that it's a strong business move.
You know the first person that I've seen that took Jay-Z's advice seriously and started using it so far? The
Who?
Closest to it so far is Ray J.
How?
With Raycons and the
Move
glasses.
like a little bit.
Like Raycons and the glasses. That's pretty much all. Like, Ray J's in the business game now.
The thing is, if Drake truly wants to eclipse Jay-Z, he has to do this. But Drake has not shown his business acumen yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, what does Drake have?
He owns a little bit of some clothing brand called 100 Thieves. I think he has a show on Netflix called Top Boys.
That was a good show. That Top Boy.
But at the end of the day, that's just content. That's not ownership over anything.
That is such
like he was just
show.
a brand ambassador at the end of the day.
I think he's right now. What is he? The brand ambassador for the Toronto or Tampa Bay Raptors.
And I don't think Nike gave him any equity for this upcoming drop that he's doing with Certified Lover Boy. I think he needs to get equity in some companies. Because for a financial services company that has a lot of money invested in Bitcoin, like Jack Dorsey's doing some wild shit with this company. They have money allocated in Bitcoin. They invented Cash App, which is a modern-day peer-to-peer communications app for transferring money. So they own people's data on their financials. They're doing a lot of innovative things in the financial sector, and now they're incorporating a music service into a financial services company, which I don't know how is going to intersect. But the point is, Jay-Z has equity in these things that he's now giving up as equity for cash, and he's really showing a blueprint for rappers on how to do this in the future.
Jack Dorsey has to believe it's worth that. There's got to be some ultimate goal. You don't just drop $297 million for nothing.
So I think this is where the NFT conversation comes in.
Why at 297? Like, why couldn't they just do a straight 300?
No.
Why, like,
Because
why
7 makes it
$3
look cooler.
Because we
away?
saving $3 million over here.
Like, I never get that with those weird numbers. Like, why not just do an exact?
Yeah,
number?
but is Jay-Z? I'm pretty sure Jay-Z blinked and was like, Blue Ivy, what do you think? 297 sounds cool. Yeah. Like, what are you gonna say? Oh, they didn't give me 300 billion, so I said no.
I'm thinking
If you don't shut your ass up, Beyonce would beat his ass.
I'm thinking it's like $3 more, but it's like literally $3 million more.
Man,
to get to 300.
but at that level, $3 million does kind of seem like $3.
Yeah, at that level, right?
It depends on
If he said no, Beyonce would Solange him. Like,
That's true.
Ooh,
it's also about
could
numbers. If
not.
they had like a 92.5% ownership take, then the 0.5 maybe makes it a uneven
I
number.
get you, but I just feel like 300 is cooler. But like, whatever.
I think they might start incorporating music NFTs into a financial services company.
Isn't that just masters?
I don't know. How do you incorporate like the Cash App and sending people songs, like you send people money, but you send them the Tidal songs, and then there's like some level of streaming because they champion this move as a win for artists. Tidal has always positioned itself as like the creator first music platform, whereas Spotify like kind of doesn't care that much.
Do you guys have Tidal? Like, do you like
use
it? Do you use it?
I should, to be honest. I shouldn't be paying for Spotify, but like, I just like the ecosystem of Spotify more than Tidal. I tried Tidal; it felt kind of weird, but also I'm just used to Spotify.
I've never tried Tidal. The only reason I even use Spotify is because I have that Spotify for Students thing right now, and once I'm done with that, I'm probably gonna get rid of Spotify too. The only thing though is I have a lot of playlists that I've housed on Spotify, so like now I'm just like, do I really want to get rid of it? I don't know. We'll see.
They won't get that $10 a month from you. They won't get it. It's wild. We pay $16 a month to Netflix, and we get all this content, and we pay $10 just for audio from Spotify. That's how powerful music is, bro.
Yeah, it's not just audio. It's music. There's something about it. As like it's so good. Whenever we hear a good sound, we literally say music to my ears.
Yeah.
Like we can't get rid of
And there's
it.
a comfort in Spotify that I don't think has been done with like Apple
Yes.
or with Tidal, where it's just like
It's user-friendly.
We've used it for so long, and I think that's the argument that could even apply to Netflix versus Paramount or Disney Plus, like because there's a comfort in Netflix, what you like really grew up with or whatever you started with first. It's hard to let go of that comfort.
I'm about to give the most unintellectual take for why that is true. Black and green.
There's
I
something
don't
about
know
black and
what it
green.
is.
There is
It's
something
just-
about that. And they had to do some data on that in 2012 when they
That's
were
why
coming
this
out with
plant is
What do
next
you
to this
mean,
couch.
black and green?
It's just
Think about it. Think about it. Black and green.
black and green.
Think about it. Black and green. Spotify.
Black. Green.
You really don't get it? It's the logo of Spotify.
Oh yeah,
It's in black and green.
Yeah.
So
He's
why
saying
is
the
that-
colors
It's
are
so
soothing.
Oh, the colors. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It
Yes,
feels
yes.
like being in a calming forest.
That's facts.
Like I don't know what it is.
It really
and then
does.
just hearing all the good sounds of just the ecosystem of
Right.
music.
It's like the Facebook with the blue. Like Facebook and
Right.
blue just go together.
Yeah.
Facebook
or the
and green
Netflix
would be
and
weird.
the sound. You know the sound
Ba-dum.
it does?
that
sound.
You heard that
is-
Netflix sound remix?
Yeah,
TikTok.
right. There's comfort, and that's the thing where our brains, like these companies, really, really know how to get to us, is because it's the sound, it's the color that will keep us in. It's not even the content; it's that stuff that will keep us in these.
I think I figured it out.
companies.
What if on Cash App or on Tidal you can send your artist money through Cash App?
I'm not doing that.
Like, what if they make
What
a
does Drake need my money for?
they make
You
like a
crazy?
funnel for people to send money through a financial services company that's integrated with a music streaming service, like donations or I don't know, but not to Drake, but like independent artists that are just trying to rise up, have 2,000 monthly listeners, something like that. There has to be some intersection here, and I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be. At this point, speculation is useless.
Yeah. Yeah. So Will Smith, last thing for today is potentially running for politics.
Will Smith.
Will Smith, what do you guys think about that? Will Smith.
First things first. Rest in peace,
Uncle
Uncle
Phil.
Phil.
For real.
All
You're
right.
the only father that I ever knew. You're not going to finish the second line?
Nah,
If I get my...
I know, but it's only Uncle Phil. It's just for Uncle Phil. That's the only line I need. But I will be a better you.
Do you think he could be a good politician?
I think he could be a good. Okay, define good politician.
Wins the election.
Like, do I think he'll pass good policies, or do I think he'll be very good at politics?
Both, and he has to win an election.
I think he can win an election.
You think he can win an
I think Will
election?
Smith can win an election. I think it's gonna be a little tough, and it's not gonna be without. He's gonna have to sacrifice a lot, including his perfect family image, because people are gonna come for him. Like when you've been in the media in something that is not politics related, you're gonna be targeted. But like, I mean, if Arnold Schwarzenegger could be the governor of California, Will Smith can win a mayoral race. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think the controversial thing about this is Will Smith has never been controversial in terms of he's been in an art form, whether it's music or movies or shows, that has just appealed to the masses. He's one of those pop culture characters that, like, he's just an iconic character, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Independence Day, Pursuit of Happiness, that people can relate to. As soon as you leave from a creative work of art and go into a political field, half the country already hates you because they have to hate you because you're not part of their team.
Sure.
Like, if you're a Democrat, the Republicans, they just don't like you. They can disagree with you respectfully, but at the end of the day, they don't want you representing them if you're truly on the other side of the issue. So for Will Smith to do this means that he has to give up 52 years, because I think that's all he is, of being beloved by people in order to be hated by half the people. Why would he do that? What is the motivation for that? There can only be two motivations. He either wants to genuinely help people, because that's the role of a politician, or he wants power, because politics is power.
I just feel like there's an infinite number of ways to help people that don't, and actually a few less constricted ways to help people that don't require politics. Like, let's be 100% honest, right? We began this show talking about how grateful we were that we finally got our stimulus check, right?
Yes.
But it took a ton of politicking, a literal change in national administration, just for us to get a section of what we thought we would fully get in the first place.
Yes.
Politics, even if it's good at helping people, is extremely slow. if Will Smith really, really wanted to do this, there's a ton of routes. There's like nonprofits that he could do. He could start his own foundation and support people. It just doesn't make any sense to assume that the logical reason he wants to do politics is just because he wants to help people. I mean, man, by acting, Will Smith has helped a ton of people. You know how many kids find confidence because of watching like Will Smith performances, because of watching The Fresh Prince?
So your argument is that Will Smith can do plenty of things if he wants to help people, which seems to be the general reason why people go into politics. They want to pass policies that have an impact on literal people's literal lives. He can do that in a variety of other factors. I agree with that because I think he can launch a ton of nonprofits. He has millions and millions of dollars. He can get millions of dollars from brands to support his nonprofits and ultimately help the world. So if it's not that, it has to be power.
Sure.
And I think this is where the thing gets interesting. Like, it seems like someone who's that creative, after they've had a lifetime of fulfillment in creativity, gets so bored that the only thing they can do next is acquire massive power, either through finances or through politics, because those are the only two sectors of our global economy where people have power. You're either rich or you have influence. You have influential decision-making power. It seems like he doesn't want to do the money route because he would probably just go be some CEO and start a bunch of businesses, and he's already made a lot of money, so that doesn't seem to be the influence.
Nope.
So it seems like he wants to become a politician, if he truly wants to go into politics and if he actually follows through with it, because he wants some level of power that he's never had before. And to me, this is a really weird motive that exists within creative people, because after they're done being creative, meaning they're washed up essentially, they can't create the same art they did before. They need to go do something in another sector. Jay-Z's doing this with business, because he's probably done releasing music. Maybe he has a couple albums left, but he's had a lifetime of work done, and now he's going through the business sector to make millions of dollars and potentially billions to have power and influence.
You know what this shows me? Like, everyone, I use that loosely, every person really strives. Those who are creative and want to work in certain fields like acting and singing strives to have that level of influence as Will Smith has, right? Like, they want to reach that many people. And then when you see people like Will Smith or like or celebrities that go into the political field, things sort of get into perspective that it's like, no matter how much influence you have as a celebrity, it's almost like it will never be enough, because a lot of celebrities have shown that it's still not enough.
What do you mean by that?
That form of influence, as if they still need to go.
Like 100 million Instagram followers is not enough.
Right.
Which is more influential than a politician, if you think about it.
Right, which that's what's so interesting about it. 100 million followers on Instagram is a lot more powerful. You would think that's what it is, but there's something about politics in general that makes it feel, even if you have 20 million supporters versus that 100 million on Instagram, that still makes it feel like you have a greater legacy after you die. And that's an interesting idea to me, because I would disagree with that, but also I'm not on Will Smith's level. Like, I haven't lived that type of life.
At this point, Will Smith is stat padding. It's like, bruh, you really need this?
That's the thing. That's the thing. He doesn't really need that. He doesn't need to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the Terminator, then the governor of California. But like, why did Arnold do that? It seems like he wanted power.
He said he'll be back as the governor of, what was it, California?
Yes.
Yeah. So, he came back. Like, my thing is, like, low-key, I don't even know if it's a power trip at this point. I think he might just be bored. Like, I really do think that he might straight up just be bored.
And you think it's a new challenge of being bored?
Because once you've mastered something, like, okay, so I vocalized this before. You're gonna hate me for using this because you're like, this is the most boring thing on earth. But one of my favorite stories I've ever heard about people switching, like, what they do, and it's the same thing because they did something completely boring, was a dude by the name of Ken Dryden. Ken Dryden was a hockey player. He was a phenomenal goaltender. He was one of the best goaltenders ever. Managed to win a championship before he won the Rookie of the Year award, was how good he was. Ken Dryden only played in the NHL for 8 seasons, and he was the best goalkeeper in the entire league for 6 of them. And then at the prime of his career, he was like, I'm leaving to go be a professor at some random college in Canada.
Right.
And then eventually he became a politician, etc. And everybody was just like, dude, why did you do this? You're one of the most iconic, like, people ever. In 8 years, he's one of the 100 best players to ever play hockey. Like, ever. in only 8 years, right? And he dropped off, and he was like, look, his explanation was simple. He said, I like hockey. I like being really good at hockey. I like being really good at things that I like, and I want to give myself new challenges and give myself the time to be good at whatever comes next. That's why I decided to leave early. I think it's the same thing for Will Smith. I think he's been when you're as good as Ken Dryden was at hockey or as good as Will Smith was at acting, at a certain point you're just like, bro, it's too easy. There's nothing on my level. Like I need a new challenge.
And politics is a really big challenge.
Yeah,
because you need to appeal to people in a different way. Like you need to show how you're going to help their material lives.
You need to be real. That's the wild part.
And
Will
acting
Smith has
is
spent
fake.
his entire life being other people,
Being fake.
Now they're asking
Literally being
be
fake.
Will Smith.
And acting is faking
Also,
it.
politics is also like acting.
True,
in some
but
way.
at
it's
the
more
very
real
least-
than acting
But
at
at the
the
very
end of the
least,
day.
when they look at your legacy, they're gonna be like, it's not gonna be, what was the character from
Terminator?
What was the character from Terminator?
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, what was the character?
I don't know.
Do you have a name?
His name is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
He
but-
played the Terminator.
What was he? Was he just the Terminator? I don't know what the.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he had like
The
some-
movie was called The Terminator.
Yeah, but I thought he had a name, and he was named the Terminator for what they gave him.
Oh, I don't know. I think he was just
whatever.
Terminator.
It's not going to be when they talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger's legacy, they're going to say he was an actor that played a Terminator, but the legacy is going to be surrounded around the name Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, that's what makes it real.
It's not going to be surrounded around the character name from Bad Boys. Like, it's not going to be that. It's literally just going to be, hey, this is Will Smith's career. Will Smith was an actor. And they might talk about all the films, but at a certain point, it's a lot better, and it makes you less bored when you think about your legacy as being he was an actor, a father, a husband, a politician.
Here's the thing.
A businessman.
Any creative that goes into politics, I don't think they actually care about helping people. Because Will Smith probably doesn't care about like reducing California's, I don't know, tax rate or something.
He might.
I don't think he does
Or
enough.
not the tax rate. Maybe like, I don't know. Maybe there's a social justice issue that he's really.
My thing is, I think
for.
it goes back to your point. He's bored and he wants power. Because if he truly cared, I mean, you don't become a politician at 55. Like, if you were truly into
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
That's actually a pretty average age.
No,
politicians-
hold on.
most
Most people
politicians
either
don't
went to
start-
law school or they studied government and they had years of
But most
Senate campaigns
but most
and all this shit.
politicians don't start. They don't start young.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
start at,
They
like,
start
40.
working. They start working on campaigns at like 22 out of college, and they work their way up the ranks. They don't become a senator or the president
Yeah,
until their 40s or 50s.
that's what I'm saying.
That's what he's never been in politics.
What is he running? But that's also that's kind of the
He
new
said
wave. too.
he would consider it. He didn't like.
He's not running. My point is the reason he's
not
considering
running
it
right now.
is not because he actually cares about literal people. I'm not saying he's a bad person. It's just that if you're in politics from age 20, you think one day there's a 40-year plan, I could be the president.
Ideally, you know what's weird
I
though?
can help people.
You know what's weird though? The people that start from that young age might actually be the ones that care less about people.
I agree. It's just a
It's
question
weird.
of if you also start that late, do you truly care?
You might.
Because if he truly cared, he can start a variety of companies and or nonprofits that will help more people than the bureaucracy of being the mayor.
His son Jaden has
His
this whole
water
water
brand,
campaign,
right.
and it's like so huge, and it's helping probably a lot more
Like,
people.
you don't go into politics to help people. That's my point. You just don't. You just
Fair
don't. Now, there's an exception to that because people like AOC, I think
AOC, right,
she
she's
goes
an
into politics
exception.
and she has a direct, but she's one in a million that, like her and Bernie, right, that actually go into politics with an intent to help people. Most people do it for power.
And that's why Bernie was not. That's why Bernie was not going to be president.
And that's why Bernie was never going to be president because he wants to help people way too much.
I'm not even going to lie. If Bernie had run outside of Vermont,
Yeah,
he could have lost.
Even in California, he would lose. There's too many moderates there. That's what's interesting. I'm like, does Will Smith and not just the archetype of a Will Smith-esque character who's been in acting for 50 years? Do you really start to care at this old of an age? Like, but it makes sense. You're supposed to do politics when you're older so you can give back.
Wasn't Ronald Reagan an actor too?
I think so.
I believe Ronald Reagan was an
Yeah.
actor.
Was he?
Yeah,
Maybe,
I think so.
You're supposed to do something selfish for the first part of your life and then selfless. So theoretically, if you want it to be selfless and be like, I made enough, I want to give back through politics, that makes sense. The question is the method by which you give back, because politics is just objectively not the best way to do it.
I would love to believe that Will Smith does care about people because
His personality is very motivational.
You do,
It
right?
seems
It's
like he
very
cares.
motivational.
It's just to care about people to go through like tax rates and stuff. I don't think you care that much.
Yeah, the
shit's boring.
decision calculus doesn't make a ton of sense. The personality trait where it's like I care about people is definitely there. Here is the real take. If Will Smith's decision is based upon wanting to help people, I think he's making a mistake. I objectively.
I
think
think
that's
that's the thing where when we idolize certain jobs, and we do that constantly, whether it is going into education or whatever it is, we have this intent of like, I want to help people, but we don't really have any sort of idea or clue what that really takes. Like what's the nitty gritty, the everyday, like you said about tax rates. Like that is a very boring thing, but that's what comes with being a politician, right? Like we tend to ignore all of like the everyday work that it might take just for that bigger sort of power that clouds it. And maybe that's the case that happens with a lot of celebrities when they go into these fields or when they want to go into them.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, good. In either case, good luck to Will Smith. I'm not gonna lie, seeing that as the story from Fresh Prince to politics, that's a great story.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is now the Fresh Prince now the mayor of Bel-Air.
President of Bel-Air.
That would be fire.
That's his campaign. That's how he.
Yo, if he comes out and he goes down the escalator and he's like, "It's time to be the fresh president of Bel-Air." Yo, could Will Smith win the presidency if he tried?
Maybe. I don't know.
If Will Smith played it like Trump in terms of outside of the controversial stuff, but just be a celebrity, there's a good chance it's possible. Like actually winning the
one
presidency.
little fight and my mom got scared.
He would have a great campaign song.
And he's personable, bro. He like people like Will Smith.
With my auntie and uncle in Bel-Air.
Now the question is when they say, "So are you going to drop a bomb on Syria?" What is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air going to say to that? That's the question.
Why don't Bashir al-Assad love me, man? Why don't he love me, man?
Damn. All right. On that note, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. I can't believe you said that.
Don't take that out of context.
We out.